Welcome back to this week's episode of What's the Tea? I'm LaSandra Hutchinson, and I'm here today with Jocelyn, one of our court advocates for South Suburban Family Shelter. Today, we're going to hear more about Jocelyn. We're going to meet her and then hear more about our court advocacy program. So, Jocelyn, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being a part of the tea episode this week.
Oh, no problem. I'm excited.
Okay, so you're freezing a little bit, but we're gonna just try to keep going and see um does the video pick up?
Okay.
Okay. So we are again, we're having different staff members and other people a part of that are a part of the South Suburban Family Shelter community be featured on the T every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And so actually we've been in a lot of anticipation to have someone from court advocacy be on the T because it's just such an important program. And we wanted people to learn more about what you guys do, the importance of the program, and just even the changes that you have gone through during the pandemic to make sure that people have court advocacy services. So we're going to have you talk a little bit more about that. So
Okay.
if you can just tell us a little bit more about, introduce yourself, give us your name, what your title is, and then a little bit about what brought you to this work at South Suburban Family Shelter.
Okay. So again, my name is Jocelyn Moore. I'm a court advocate here at Markham Courthouse through South Suburban Family Shelter. What brought me to this program? So I graduated from Governor State class of 2018. I just was a first generation college student graduate, and I didn't have many ideas as to what I wanted to do after graduation,
Mhm.
but I was passionate about social work. So I think pretty much from 2018 through 2019, I was just kind of exploring, and I had some issues with finding a good job that I was able to be a part of with the team. So I came across South Suburban's domestic violence program, and I just kind of did a little bit of research on that.
Mhm.
I was kind of hesitant of working in domestic violence because it was a field that I necessarily didn't want to go in because I have a like family history of abuse in my childhood. So
Mhm.
when I was hired on as a court advocate for domestic violence, it was a challenge to me initially, but I just began to love the program and just be passionate about the people that we encounter each and every day because it just kind of just teaches you a new understanding, and it gives you the opportunity to help so many people. It's a rewarding position where like each person is different.
Mhm.
They have their different stories, and sometimes it can be very difficult, but just like feeling like you made that impact and you really helped that person is rewarding. So I absolutely love this program.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So that's amazing. So can you tell us more about the court advocacy program and what you guys do? Like what's the day in the life of a court advocate?
Okay, so as court advocates, we basically our job is to assist the victims. We work with criminal and civil cases. Criminal being if someone was arrested for a domestic violence act, any type of domestic battery, from intimate partners to family members. And then civils can be the same thing, but it's just in the instance that someone may have not been arrested.
Mhm.
We do both those orders of protection. We assist the victims in court, and we kind of assist them outside of court as well. Sometimes we'll have ongoing clients that are just walk in and need additional resources that we help them provide. I consider us a team with the whole domestic violence staff at Markham
Mhm.
because we work directly with the state's attorneys, with the clerks, even with the public offenders, and we all have pretty tight knit relationship that we can all go to each other and just help to assist those victims. We also help with summons,
Mm-hmm.
where there may be a warrant that's issued if it was a severe case of domestic violence where a person may have fled the scene and wasn't arrested.
Yeah.
That person can come into the court with what we call a summons packet, and it's reviewed by the state's attorneys. And if they're proceeding with charges, we help in completing that summons
Mm-hmm.
and that order of protection, which will be a criminal emergency order of protection. And we just do that on a daily basis. Sometimes we do additional tasks because our office is like kind of the go-to office. Everybody comes there for all kind of questions. Like they're looking for somewhere to go in the building, or they're looking for attorneys. We get a lot of people that's
Mm-hmm.
looking into expungements and stuff, and it's just like we're always have our door lined up. But we have
Wow. So it sounds really busy, like like a lot of hustle, a lot of bustle, a lot of people. Um, we want to really kind of demystify the process of getting order of protection. So can you explain, like, what is the difference between a civil order or a criminal order? And if someone needs an advocate, a court advocate, how do they get in contact with you? And then what's the process once they do get in contact with you?
Yeah, so if anyone needs an advocate, they can always come into the courthouse, and there are advocates at each district for whatever area you live in. Most of the south suburbs come to Markham, but anyone can come to Markham, like even persons in Chicago. And sometimes it's easier for persons to come here versus other courts. We are one of the busiest courts here in this immediate area.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm sorry. So as far as
That's okay. I should have brought those questions up. So, if they need a court advocate, they can come physically into Markham, or do they need to call? Or
yeah, so currently with COVID, the courts are doing emergency orders of protection. So if it's on an emergency basis, which is
Mhm.
emergency meaning any incident that took place up to 48 hours ago. And
I
sometimes
see.
that does not include the weekend if you come to this court, because of course we're closed. Now at um now anybody can come. What you feel like it is an emergency to you is
Right.
an emergency,
Okay.
but under the Illinois Domestic Violence Act, emergency orders of protection is for that time frame. And especially due to COVID, they're just asking people to not come to the court unless it's under that instance. So it
Mhm.
can be an emergency order as far as a civil, which is the walk-in, and then it can be an emergency order as far as criminal, which again is if someone has not been arrested, but you're trying to get the summons packet so that it can be criminal charges that's processed. And
Mhm.
those are both durational orders, because that civil at some point will become what we call a plenary order of protection,
Mhm.
which is issued for 1 to 2 years in
Mhm.
the court. So it's just the process. The
Okay.
civil proceeding is just a little different from the criminal. Civil emergency orders of protection are issued for 14 to 21 days. And
Mhm.
then from there, it goes to hearing to determine that 1 or 2 year order of protection.
Okay. I see. So, are people also able to get an order of protection online if they don't think it's an emergency, or the 48 hours has passed? What should they do?
Yes. So, so under the clerk's office website, I'm not exactly sure on the process how to get there, but if you go under the domestic, it's a domestic link on the clerk's website. It
Mhm.
will guide you into filling out a civil order of protection. You can do that online. I have experienced people that have done emergency orders online, and sometimes it's a little difficult, especially when you don't understand certain terminology or questions. So
Mm.
they may fill it out, but we have gotten these orders in where we'll print out that copy or we'll receive that copy, and then it has to be some changes that need to be made. But I always recommend, if anyone does choose to go online and fill out that order of protection, just take your time and just make sure you thoroughly read through each step that you're doing. In addition to that, we have on a few occasions done orders of protection over the phone. Most
Mhm.
recently, again, due to COVID, we've done that with
Oh,
criminal cases
okay.
where we would receive the information from the state's attorneys. They would just explain what happened with that case and that victim would like a criminal order of protection.
Mhm.
And we'll just contact them, ask all the questions as to if they want a no contact or a no unlawful order of protection. And I'm sorry, I should explain that a little sooner. So there are two types of orders of protection that you can
Okay.
receive. No contact is just that in itself. Is saying that you're not to contact me for any reason at all.
Mhm.
And the no unlawful order protection says we can still be in contact, we can still be in communication, but you're not to like physically abuse me, harass me, interfere with my personal liberty. If we have any children in common or any children that, even if they're not that person's children, but they were still in their lives, just not to intimidate those children in any way. And a lot of times we do get cases where the defendant may use children to kind of intimidate the parent in ways of saying, like, speaking bad on that person, on that victim, or just kind of making the children afraid. So it just asks that you not to do any of those behaviors. And if you do, it's considered a violation of that order of protection.
So if someone violates the unlawful contacts or the no contacts order of protection, what happens? What happens to
So yeah, so once you have that order of protection, you make sure you keep your copy. If it's being violated, you can always go to the police department that's in the area that you live in and just let them know, like, hey, I have this order of protection in place, it's being
Mhm.
violated, I'm in fear of my safety, can I be helped? It's at that point the police responsibility to ensure those orders of protection is being enforced. The
Mhm.
judge can issue them, but it's very, very important that we have these police departments enforce these orders of protection.
Mhm.
Now, if it's a criminal case and it's being violated, you could also come into the court and just speak with the state's attorneys, let them know what's going on. The state's attorneys can proceed with charges as well. And that way they would have to go through the court for that, but they can also contact the police department asking them to prepare a summons or go out and make an arrest for these violations, and then you go back in front of the judge. And that's the
Mhm.
same thing with the civil.
Mm.
If someone's violating that order of protection, it's still a still order of protection nonetheless. So if they violate that, they can be arrested. They may have never been arrested for whatever the case may be, but at that point, if you're violating this order that you're aware you have, you
Yeah.
can't be arrested and brought in front of the judge.
Okay. Wow. So with that and in doing this work and with all of the different legal terminologies and all of the different processes that a person has to go through to make sure that they can get their order of protection and that the order is then enforced, how do you see the role that you play as a court advocate being significant for a person that needs the order? Like, how does it make a difference for them to have access to court advocacy?
So I can answer that in different ways. So
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, okay, so for on the front end of the advocate actually being there to assist with that process of the order of protection. Like, we're there to be able to answer certain questions that court staff may not understand, and just being able to fill out that paperwork, because again, if you don't understand certain terminology, you won't understand the order all the way.
Yeah.
And that's one end, making sure that it's complete. And a lot of times the victims may be emotional or frustrated or just confused, and the advocate is just kind of there to help alleviate some of those like negative feelings or extra
Mhm.
pressures.
Yeah.
In addition to that, it may be different, like we advocate for our victims, like certainly. It may be something where a warrant was supposed to be issued, but for some reason the police department didn't receive the file, and we have a victim that's calling worried, like, what's going on? Why didn't they receive this warrant? Why isn't this person being arrested? And us as the advocates, we ensure that we're going to go to the clerks, we're going to go to that courtroom, the judge, the sheriff, whoever we need to speak to figure out what's going on, where's this file, and when will it be received, because this person is in fear of their safety.
Yeah.
Or it may be, I recently, maybe a few weeks ago, I had an incident where I had a victim come into the court for order of protection, and this victim was followed to the court by the person she was trying to get the order against, and she was terrified. You can see it all on her face. And we, as the advocates, like both agencies, because again, it's two agencies in our court, we're all a team, and we're just like, separating her from the person that has been abusing her. We make sure that we can walk you away. We make sure everybody in this court know who you are, and that you're protected. And it's so many different ways that we just ensure that we're advocating and protecting your safety and your resources as advocates.
Wow, that's amazing. That is so important. So you guys are just, I think providing so many different assets, to the victim, because you're helping them navigate the court system, which can be complicated, it can be intimidating, but then also making them feel comforted and safe, and then also um, being a voice for them to make sure that stuff is getting done. Wow, advocating on their behalf. So in terms of challenges, what are some of the challenges you guys have faced, especially with the pandemic? How has that impacted your work as court advocates?
Yeah, so with COVID-19, it has been impacted here as advocates. Again, we work as a team, like with everyone. So prior to COVID, we were all in the courtroom together. We were able to go straight and ask questions and have them answered, and vice versa. Where even with the orders of protection, sometimes it's difficult when you have your state's attorneys upstairs and your advocates in one office and your victim's not even in the court, and the court call has to continuously move, because in a lot of days our court call is very heavy. We may have several cases on that call for one day, and we have to draft orders of protection and ask different questions and make sure the right remedies are added to that order. So when you got to take the order to have it signed, and you got to take it to the court, and you have to do all this process in a certain amount of time. That does make it difficult. Sometimes it may be a lapse in communication or certain confusion, especially when we can't contact victims. So that makes it difficult as well. Just not being here all together. Again, some of our days are really heavy. So when you only have one or two advocates in the building, we are swamped with work. And it can be overwhelming. And we all know it's very important to take care of ourselves. And just some days you just got to go home and just really debrief after a long, heavy day. And doing that mostly on your own. It's great when you have your whole team there, because we do that together. Sometimes because the order of protection consists of the petition and then the emergency order. So sometimes we'll have one of our advocates doing a petition and the other advocate doing the emergency order, because that may consist of so many things. Some orders are very straightforward, but some you may have children in the home. You may have issues of, are we asking for no contact with the children, or do we have to add several vehicles? Do we have to add animals? Like, these things add up on the orders. So just us not being there does make it difficult with COVID. Another thing I think is difficult is that we're not, prior to COVID, we would have our victim rooms that we would put our clients in and just be able to do our intake right there, ask all our questions, but we're not able to do that anymore. So just the way of communicating is just It's a little difficult. It takes
Yeah.
a little time. It's something we have become accustomed to, and we make it work. At the end of the day, we do make it work. It has been a transition, but we're just blessed to be able to be here and still assist our victims, because this is a domestic violence overall is just the area that's always going to be there, and it's always going to need services and programs to help with those issues.
Yeah. So are you guys now having one staff member, one court advocate in the court a day? Is that how you guys have changed to adapt for COVID-19 as opposed to the whole team?
Yes. So most recently, it has just changed that way. So it can be one advocate within our court and maybe another advocate in the other office,
Mm-hmm.
but we wouldn't be in the same office. So again, it's another agency here, and we do rotate days. So certain days is our criminal days, where
Okay.
we're doing the criminal orders of protection, and
Mm-hmm.
South Suburban, our days, we have 3 days are criminal, and then our other 2 days, we do all civil, and then we
Okay.
split the one criminal day. So while one agency may be doing civils, when we have some downtime on the criminal end, it's
Mm-hmm.
important to go help with those civils, because we may get
Mm-hmm.
so many walk-ins in a day. Sometimes, if it's possible, because we can go in the other office, it may be two advocates here, but
Mm-hmm.
just not at the time, especially with the current closure of the court.
So, how many court advocates from South Suburban Family Shelter are usually, or how many court advocates are there altogether from South Suburban Family Shelter?
It's 4 of us, including my supervisor.
Okay, and then from the other organization, are there also four?
It's 3 advocates.
And you guys work collaboratively. That's what it sounds like
Yeah.
with the other organization. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, amazing. So it seems like that's a lot of shifting. You guys have had to really juggle and shift and adapt a lot. In terms of the intake, without having the victims room, how do you do the intake with them?
So it's a few different ways we'll do it. We'll either go out in the hall.
Mhm,
Um, so with our intakes, we'll highlight the most important aspects of it that we
mhm.
need them to fill out, and then we'll just go and explain it to them in the hall, and we'll give them clipboards, which we do make sure we sanitize everything day in and out. So we give them the clipboards, and we allow them to fill in those few important points, which does also help us in filling the order of protection. Like,
Yeah,
especially if you have multiple children, we do ask for that information on the
yeah,
intake. So we'll just be able to take the children's names and ages, or just certain statistics of their background,
yeah.
which is important. And then from there, we'll use that, complete the order of protection, and then we'll give them a call later on that day or the following day, just to go ahead and complete that intake on our end.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, in terms of a person, if a person wants to get an order of protection, let's say for example, they're watching this interview, how should they prepare themselves? Should they be collecting evidence? Should they come in, ready, like you just mentioned, with certain information that they know they should put on the petition? Like, how can they be ready for that process? Like, what would you say they should do?
So, first, as far as that person you're trying to get an order of protection against,
Mhm.
it is so important to have their date of birth,
Okay.
their legal first and last name, and their address. I can't express how many times persons have been seriously harassed. These persons know where they work, know where they live, and where their family live. As far as the victims,
Yeah.
however, the victims may not know the information on the person they're getting the order of protection
Oh
against,
my goodness.
and it's
But they
important to
know
have that to file. Yeah.
that.
And so that's one thing. Just also, sometimes certain incidents aren't easy for the judge to determine on. So I always suggest, if someone's threatening you online via social media, or someone's sending you voicemails or text messages, or whatever the case may be, I say screenshot all of those things, save those things. If you have pictures of any bruising or any damage to your property, like, always keep and conceal documentation of that, because it's important in showing the judge, even if it may have not been a recent incident.
Yeah.
um, yeah, it can just show a pattern or a history of it. And I should have mentioned prior as well, when you come in and file a civil order of protection, it is under an emergency basis, where that emergency order is issued for 14 to 21 days. However, there are instances where the judge may give you a petition only. And I've experienced people being upset about petition only because they feel like nobody's protecting me. This isn't
Right.
anything. But the petition may not be an emergency order. Like, for instance, sometimes we'll have people come in for civil orders and the incident may happen a month ago.
Okay.
Now, under Illinois Domestic Violence Act, it's not an emergency basis,
Mhm.
but it may be a reason that you weren't able to make it into the court. People have transportation issues, can't get off work, can't get child care. So
Mhm.
you never know the reason. The judge may grant that petition, and that's just saying that I'm granting petition to still have a hearing on this case. The person you're filing against will still be summoned to court. You'll have that hearing, and then the judge will be able to determine, do we need the order of protection in place? And if it does go into place, it will be for 1 to 2 years. And
Okay.
sometimes I've seen 6 months order of protection.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So you talked a lot about just the process of getting the order. I feel like you've given us so much great information. I think anybody anybody that sees this interview, I think is gonna walk away with a lot of understanding about the process, which probably is intimidating for people that have no common or prior knowledge to how to get an order. So I think this is really great. Thank you for sharing all of that. We often talk about self-care on the T with the people that we interview, because people in all the people and the staff that work in our different programs are all hearing a lot of trauma, and connecting with and providing services to people that can be frazzled, people that can be really upset because of the experience of abuse. How do you practice self-care as a court advocate? How do you take care of yourself after a long day, or after hearing all these different stories and working in such a really like high pressure environment?
Yeah, so um well, first and foremost, I really appreciate my team,
Yeah.
my coworkers and my supervisor, because just in between, a long day or at the end of a long day, we're just able to kind of talk and debrief about what took place. My supervisor is extremely supportive to us, because we can just like tell her just straight, like, this was a tough day, and just kind of talk about the different cases and what happened and different persons that we encountered. That's always a start for me, just being able to have a supportive team that we can communicate with. And just after a long day, I just like to go home, and just sometimes I would just sit there and won't even cut on any lights or TV.
Yeah.
um, and then for myself, I enjoy listening to my music. So when I leave here, I pretty much put my music on blast in my car, and I just drive home. And I also enjoy to write. So sometimes that's relieving for me, just to be able to write my poetry, and sometimes go to different events and recite them. Even now, doing them online, it's a transition, but it's pretty cool to do that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I just sometimes enjoy just sitting and being in quiet after talking to so many people throughout the day, which is fine.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is nice to just have a few minutes to yourself and just reflect. Like, you know, we're done with the day. Tomorrow's a new day, and just do different aspirations for myself, writing those down, and also just doing little notes to myself, like around my place of,
Mhm.
today is going to be a good day, tomorrow will be better. And that's just my self-care.
Wow, like different affirmations. I love that. That's really, really powerful. So that's awesome. In terms of just final thoughts, are there any final thoughts that you want to include in this interview? Things about core advocacy that you want people to understand, or any final words?
I guess my final words is just, if anyone is watching our What's the Tea, and they just ever need to come into our building and they want to speak to an advocate, just know that we're always there. But I just want everyone to understand that sometimes we are really busy and we can't get to you immediately when you walk up. Just give us a few minutes and bear with us. We're always going to come and make sure that there's no one that's physically there that needs our assistance in any way. And I know sometimes people come to the court and they can end up being there for hours because it's a process, but you also just have to be aware and conscious that it's also other people there that need the services. And just lastly, thank you for interviewing with me. I think this is a good opportunity for people to just look at South Suburban Family Shelter and see what's going on with each and every program.
Yeah, absolutely. Jocelyn, thank you. I know it was hard to get the time. I know you guys are so busy. So we appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know you got to get back in the courthouse, so I'm not even going to hold you. But thank you for taking the time to just talk with us today, being a part of this tea episode. And I hope we get a chance to talk again in the future.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for interviewing me and making me feel comfortable in doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So, we want to thank you for tuning into the tea. Be sure to connect with us again. Tune in next Tuesday, same time, same place, different tea. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.